Now, being a woman often means that you will have to manage both wanted and unwanted advances from all sorts of men. And for the man trying to initiate a romantic relationship and sometimes experiencing rejection, it can be very distressing. But who says the man is expected to make the fast move? Is there anything inherently wrong with a woman making overtures towards a man she fancies? Those are just some of the questions we hope to get answers to on Let's Talk tonight. Joining me is Dr. Shilan Janabanji and Ben Mwine. It is going to be a very exciting one, isn't it? Thank you for joining us, and we'll get right into it. Now, men are usually expected to be the ones to initiate going out on a date or a relationship, and women are usually expected to just position themselves appropriately to allow the man make the move. And when it comes to marriage, I can understand why men need to be the ones to propose getting married, because I mean they need to be ready to, take on the responsibility as a head of family. But does this necessarily apply to courtship and dating? Should the man be the one to make the move? I will start with Ben Mwine, seeing as you are the man on the show.
I think they have to, because like you just said, as you'd expect, the man is going to have to be the one to propose, and if they're going to do that, any sort of relationship, as far as I'm concerned, if it's romantic in any way, should be one that you think is going to lead to some sort of long-term commitment in the end. And if it's not, then what are you doing there in the first place? And if it is, then it should follow the same pattern that a man looks at a woman, thinks she has the potential to be the mother of my children, so I will make the first move. Anything other than that, I think, creates complications that are not very necessary.
But then that assumes that every relationship is going to lead to marriage.
I think for you to get into a relationship, you should go in with that sort of background and thinking. Otherwise, if you don't, you end up causing a lot of pain and hurt for both you and the other party.
Dr. Sheila, your take on that?
I think the best way to approach the relationship is by being friends. And I want to differ from Ben saying that the relationship should start with an aim of marriage in the end. Actually, that's what causes people pain. Okay. I think people should relate and wait to see if the relationship actually matures into what could make a marriage.
That's a very interesting perspective, Dr. Sheila.
The problem with being Dr. Sheila is that what she is talking about is a romantic relationship.
Yes.
And you can't say, I'm going to become friends with Rukhsana, and then along the way we'll see if it becomes romantic or not. If
but you cannot jump into romance.
Exactly.
It doesn't work. It is not natural. You first be friends, be acquaintances, then, you get, become closer and closer. Then you realize that you feel something for each other, or one of you feels something for the other. And if one feels something for the other person, and I'm thinking, if the woman sees that the man actually appears he feels something for me, and I see that I feel something for him, and we are going on and on, I think I have the right to ask him a question: is this relationship going anywhere?
Amazing.
Oh.
I'm sure quite a number of our viewers who are responding to this,
because I think
Facebook and
once
Twitter,
you have been close, and then you see that the romance is developing, and then you are getting these awkward feelings about one another, then it is important. If you see maybe the man is keeping quiet and wants to be closer and closer, but is not making any statement, a woman has a right to ask, is this relationship going anywhere? Or you think if it is time we actually put some distance and remain
Dr.
friends.
Sheila, the challenge I have with that is that then sometimes these men feel like you're putting them under pressure.
No, but there is a way to do it. And as I say, I have said it before. For deciding whether a man wants to marry you, of course, many men will think that when I ask you this, oh, I think we are going to get, but you can read. You can read the signs. You can read the signs. And you can have, always it is important to get collateral information. Okay. Collateral from friends, from what you can get a way of knowing what this man actually thinks about you.
Unfortunately, the times that we're living in, Dr. Shelley, is such that right now, by the time you get to that level, what's happening with a lot of people, especially young people around the world and in Uganda now, it's a trend that's catching on here as well, is that by the time they get to that level, this man and woman have been sexually active this entire time. So even by the time the woman or man decides their feelings involved, there's been a sexual relationship going on, which becomes a problem.
It becomes an impediment.
It becomes a major complication.
Whether
which is why I think from the beginning,
whether there have been a
clear.
sexual relationship or not, I think for somebody to make the commitment, they should do that. Because even if there are people, some people go for the sexual relationship when actually they are not interested in marrying the person.
And that's a problem. That's a big problem.
It is a big problem, but even if that has happened, the woman at a certain point needs to establish whether this relationship is leading to a commitment or not.
And I think that should be done at the beginning of this friendship. By the time
No,
you get to be a friend with
that's not natural.
I think you should know whether this is someone that I think has the potential to become a partner. And so you know from the beginning, is this platonic or is it not? So if your intentions are very clear, then from the very onset, you know, this is going to be a friend zone type thing, which I think women do a lot. You friend zone a guy, so he knows from the very beginning this is not it's not going anywhere. And so it lessens the chances of rejection on both your parts, and it lessens the chances of complications as well. But if you do it the other way and say, let's be friends, chances are, most of the time, that there is going to be a lot of pain and rejection for one of you at some point along the way.
But how about getting the pain when you're already in marriage? I cancel a lot of broken marriages by people assuming because they met and had this crush and everything was, and then afterwards they realized that actually they were not meant for one another.
There's a big difference between a crush and a commitment.
But at the beginning, that is what happens. That's why I prefer taking it slow. And that's why the older marriages actually used to work.
So what's the understanding from the beginning? If you say we're taking it slow, what becomes the understanding from?
Just be friends first.
So I meet Roxana and I say, Roxana,
can we be friends?
I like you, I think you're sexy, can we be friends? It doesn't work.
Dr. Sheila, that's not very realistic.
Tell them that you meet Roxana, you talk. Then another time you have, maybe there is some function or what. You invite her, we have this function, can you come around? And she comes. That creates time for interaction.
Dr. Sheila,
but you see, you are already, what's the word?
There's already an attraction.
Yes, and you're already creating expectations.
Yes.
And yet this may not even go anywhere, Dr.
What I'm saying is the wrong thing. Don't begin by expecting that this person, because I like them, I am going to marry them. And that's the mistake the young people now are doing. And that's why many marriages are not lasting.
I do agree with her on that point.
Yeah.
I think that for you to get to a point where you decide I'm going to marry someone, there's got to be certain things that you've processed and established. That said, I think by the time you get to have any sort of what we call a relationship, you should have gotten to that level where you think this person has the qualities I'm looking for in a wife. And so you want to establish that from the beginning. That said, you can't do that and just stay friends. I think it's got to be very clear from the beginning that as far as I'm concerned, what I see in you as a woman, you have the attributes that I would want in someone who is going to be my wife. And so I might not make it clear in the first week or the first month, but there will definitely be indicators that, you know what, there's an attraction here. I like you in a more than you're my friend kind of way. And then you build on that.
But there are many men who feel that. But many men take long to make the decision for very many other reasons. It can be economic, it can be what. So the man is showing all signs that he really wants you to be the wife. But then he does, yes, many men, they don't make the statement. Yes, they don't make it. They don't make it. And you see,
so they need to be nudged.
People are marrying younger now.
How do you nudge them?
Yes, so you don't nudge them. Because I don't want somebody who's going to waste my time. So if you have shown everything that I'm the one, but then you are waiting and then I see a year is ending and another one, and then I have to ask, is this relationship going anywhere?
Isn't that different though from, I think that's different from the woman actually initiating something.
Yes, that's a bit different. And let's look at the issue of rejection. I mean, when we started this conversation, Ben, you said that the man should initiate the relationship, whether it's going out on a date or just dating or whatever it is. Does that mean, I mean, that places the responsibility on the man, and that means he risks rejection.
True.
Does that mean men are better wired to take rejection than women?
Actually, I think men are a lot worse at taking rejection. The way we are wired is that we don't take rejection well at all. I think we just don't know how to handle it. And that's why for maybe it's one of the reasons why a lot of men, like Dr. Sheila is saying, will take their time before they actually make that move, because they're thinking, I don't want to go and get my fingers burned. And so when they're making that move, they want to first calculate and do their due diligence and do a feasibility study and do some sort of investigation to discover what are my chances. So you go through the friends and go through the family and just sort of try and send feelers out and try and figure out whether it's going to happen.
Why can the responsibility not lay on the woman if she fancies a man? What is wrong with her making an overture?
Very simple reason for me. For you to do that, if a woman does that, you've lost maybe, I'll speak for, I believe, maybe about 99% of the men. You do that as I think you do that as a woman and you've lost any chance you had of this man taking you seriously. You're taking away my right to be a man.
Okay.
It takes away their power.
You're taking away
it takes away your power.
Yeah.
You're deflating my ego. You're virtually castrating the man, and that's going to cause a problem in every way you look at it.
It takes away their power. So
okay, well, we posted this question on Facebook, and these are some of the responses we received. Mwine Sakira believes it is disrespectful. For a man, it would be akin to being held captive. Grace Amfre, who is also male, says a man will always take that relationship for granted and it wouldn't last. Paul Wasirwa shares his experience. He says, I have experienced this and I believe it's okay if the feeling is mutual. Thank you very much, Paul. According to Ali Taha, many men will object because of our cultural beliefs in Uganda. And Ken Subuga ravels in it. He says, I would like that, but I would silently ask myself so many questions. So honestly, it's not a very common thing to be happening. But guys, this is the 20th century.
You see,
seriously.
Therein, Roxana, is the problem. What do you call the 20th century? Is that we are learning a lot of lessons from the wrong teachers. A lot of this stuff is stuff that we're picking from what we see in the movies and on TV and from Hollywood. And if you go to Hollywood and look at their success rate for relationships and marriages, I think you'll be lucky to find it at above 10% for any of their relationships. And so why are we going to learn from these guys on things that actually don't work? The reality of the situation is that what they are trying to teach us is something that has never worked in our society, and when you look at it in any way, cannot be successful. Marriages and families are breaking down in the West. They're grappling with those issues and asking themselves, what on earth went wrong with our system and our society? And it's simply because they decided to take what God had ordained as the natural way of things getting done and trying to twist it, and it's backfired for them very badly. And now we, instead of learning from their mistakes, are simply blindly following the path that they've taken.
Ben, Ruth and Boaz.
That
Typical example.
Ruth and Boaz was very different. And Ruth and Boaz was actually very strategic. She never made the move.
Did she not position? Okay.
She positioned herself, which you mentioned. And it's different.
It was a cultural expectation. So there was a culture behind that was expected.
And
so the challenge we're having now is because it's a cultural thing.
Positioning yourself
because it's a cultural
thing. Positioning yourself is okay.
Yeah, it's different from making the move.
Even now, positioning yourself is. That's why I said that if you know that you like the person, you can also invite them out. You can.
I think it's called placing. It's called placing green lights on the system.
Some men have a challenge with reading those green lights.
What I'm saying.
I agree.
That's where we need. You need a third party. I don't think there is anything wrong with talking to somebody, maybe who's a friend. If Ben is there and I feel that we have this together and he's keeping quiet, then I can talk to a friend and say, we have this, but it looks, I'm confused and I don't know. And then this person maybe knows that this person is mad about you. And they can say, but aren't you going to lose? So where are you going with this relationship? The third party has always been there right from our culture in arranging marriage.
That's the go-between.
We abandoned that, but it is still helpful in some way. Not, of course, just arranging the way they used to do it. You don't even know what the man looks like. But I think it is still important.
I agree with Dr. Sheila. I think that many people, and I'll say, unfortunately, in most cases, women, end up going through a whole world of pain and hurt simply because they try to keep things to themselves. The way relationships are done, marriages and relationships in any way, are not just about the two of you. It's about your family. It's about your friends.
Yeah.
And so it's always going to be about letting people around you know. Because if the guy who is making moves on you has something shady about him, and
You'll never know.
Yeah. But if the moment you put it and say, guys, I've got this guy,
Then they can say,
people will tell you, but I've heard this about this guy. I've had.
Are you sure?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we go back to the third-party arrangement.
I think it is helpful.
Involve your friends.
Position ourselves,
Yeah.
involve our friends.
Make sure the lights are very clear green.
Yeah, yes.
How greener can they get? Sincerely, we can. This conversation can go on and on and on and on and on. And well, but thank you so much for joining us tonight. Next weekend we will be talking about marriage and whether it is still relevant.
Yes.
Thank you so much once again for joining us for NTV Let's Talk.
Okay.